The first time I saw Nora Bell cry, she was standing in my hallway with her dress unzipped to her waist. Not half undressed in the way movies try to make glamorous, not dramatic, not seductive, not any of the easy things a man can joke about later. She was barefoot on my old hardwood floor, one hand clutching the front of a navy blue dress to her chest, the other shaking behind her back where the zipper had stuck. And across her right side, disappearing under the fabric, was a pale, uneven surgical scar and the edge of a small medical pouch taped against her skin. She looked at me like she had just handed me a reason to leave the room. Then she whispered, "That's why no one wants me." And I heard myself say, before my common sense could stop me, "I do." But that wasn't where it started. My name is Miles Turner. I was 32, a commercial photographer in Denver, and I had become very good at making other people's lives look warmer than mine actually was. Weddings, restaurants, family portraits, engagement shoots where couples looked at each other like gravity was optional. I shot them all. Then I came home to a quiet two-bedroom apartment over a bakery, ate whatever could be microwaved in under 3 minutes, and told myself peace was better than disappointment. That was my official line. The unofficial one was that my last relationship had ended with my girlfriend saying, "You're kind, Miles, but you're always bracing for impact." She wasn't wrong. So when my landlord raised the rent and my sister suggested I get a roommate, I laughed for a full 10 seconds. "A stranger?" I asked. "Human contact," she said. "I know it's alarming." That was how Nora entered my life. Through a mutual friend, two suitcases, one box labeled books/mugs/regrets, and a raincoat the color of a lemon drop. She was 29, worked as a graphic designer for a local museum, and had the kind of face that made you look twice before you remembered manners. Dark curls usually pinned up with a pencil, brown eyes that noticed everything, a mouth that seemed permanently 1 second away from saying something sharper than expected. The first thing she said to me was, "Please, tell me you're not one of those men who owns one plate and calls it minimalism." I looked at the single clean plate drying by the sink. She looked at it too. I said, "That plate has been with me through a lot. Then I'll be respectful at the memorial when it finally breaks." I liked her immediately, which was inconvenient. Within a week, she had transformed the apartment without making it feel less mine. She put herbs on the kitchen windowsill. She hung a small print of a fox wearing reading glasses near the front door. She bought actual dish towels and said my paper towel system was a cry for help with perforations. We became easy in the way two guarded people sometimes do when neither one asks too much too fast. She learned I took coffee black, not because I was tough, but because I kept forgetting to buy milk. I learned she listened to old soul music when she cooked and hummed only the parts she didn't know. She teased me for labeling camera batteries like they were government evidence. I teased her for using $10 words while assembling cereal. "Granola has structural integrity," she told me one morning. "It's breakfast gravel. You photograph love for a living, and this is how you talk?" I photographed people pretending not to be stressed by love. She smiled at that, but something flickered behind it. There were rules, though, invisible ones. Nora never wore anything that showed her stomach, never changed clothes with her bedroom door open even a crack, never accepted invitations to the gym, pool, or any place where bodies became public property. If a dating app notification lit up her phone, she dismissed it so quickly it felt practiced. I didn't ask. I told myself not asking was respect. I also told myself the little jump in my chest when she laughed at something I said was just roommate chemistry. Domestic convenience. Two adults sharing rent and jokes, and the occasional carton of Thai takeout. Then came the Thursday night of the museum gala. I got home around 6, soaked from a spring storm, camera bag digging into my shoulder. The apartment smelled like perfume and rain. Soft music played from Nora's room, something slow with a trumpet. "Nora?" I called. "In here," she said. "And don't make a face." That has never once stopped me. I set my bag down and walked to her doorway. She was standing in front of her mirror in that navy dress, hair pinned up, small silver earrings catching the lamplight. For half a second, I forgot how normal breathing worked. The dress wasn't flashy, that made it worse. It skimmed her shoulders, narrowed at her waist, fell just below her knees. Elegant, quiet, devastating. She saw my expression in the mirror and lifted one eyebrow. That bad? I cleared my throat. No, not bad. Wow, full sentence, Turner. I'm a visual artist. Words are a secondary market. She laughed, and the sound loosened something in me. Then she turned awkwardly, trying to reach the zipper at the back. I hate to ask, she said, but can you get this last inch? It's stuck right where human arms become useless. I stepped closer. It should have been nothing. A roommate favor, a zipper. 2 seconds. But standing behind her, close enough to smell jasmine on her skin and warm fabric from the iron, my hand paused at the top of her back. Her shoulders went still. You okay? I asked. Fine, she said too quickly. I touched the zipper tab. My knuckles brushed the bare skin between her shoulder blades, and she sucked in a breath. Sorry, I said. No, it's... Her eyes met mine in the mirror. It's been a while since someone helped me into a dress. There it was. A little sentence with a locked door behind it. I pulled gently. The zipper moved half an inch, then caught. Don't force it, she said, trying to joke. This dress has more dignity than I do. I doubt that. Her gaze stayed on mine. For one strange moment, neither of us moved. Rain tapped the window. The music changed songs. I could see the pulse at the base of her throat. Then the zipper slipped the wrong way. Down. Nora grabbed the front of the dress, but not before the fabric opened along her side. I looked away instantly. Sorry, I'm sorry. No, she said, but her voice was thin. It's fine. It's not fine. I should have... Miles. Something in her tone made me look back. She had turned toward me now, one arm across her chest, the dress loose at her side. Her face was pale, but her chin was up in that stubborn way I was starting to recognize. If you're going to live with me, she said quietly, you may as well know. Nora, you don't have to show me anything. I know. Her mouth trembled. That's the problem. Everyone's very kind about not looking. Then she moved her arm just enough. I saw the scar first. Long, pale, irregular, traveling from below her ribs toward her hip. Then the pouch, discreet but real, attached to her abdomen. Medical, human. Nothing shameful. But shame was already in the room with us, breathing hard. I had emergency surgery 3 years ago, she said. Ulcerative colitis, complications. The glamorous version is that my body tried to murder me and lost. I didn't smile because she wasn't really joking. My fiancé at the time said he needed space to process. She swallowed. Apparently space looked a lot like moving in with a yoga instructor named Bree. I felt anger rise, clean and immediate. But before I could say anything, she let out a small laugh that broke halfway. So there it is. The thing under the dresses. The reason I don't date, the reason I don't go swimming, the reason men look at me like I'm brave, which is somehow worse than ugly. Her eyes filled, but she didn't let the tears fall. That's why no one wants me. The words landed harder than they should have. Maybe because I'd been wanting her for weeks in all the ways I had refused to name. Her sarcasm over coffee, her bare feet tucked under her on the couch. The way she listened when I talked about a photograph like light mattered because I said it did. So I stepped closer, not to fix the dress, not to rescue her, to make sure she could see my face when I said it. I do. Her breath caught. The rain seemed to go quiet. Nora stared at me like I had spoken in a language she understood but no longer trusted. Then she whispered, Miles, don't say that unless you mean it. Don't say that unless you mean it. Nora's voice was barely louder than the rain. I stood in front of her with my hands open at my sides, terrified. That one wrong movement would turn a true thing into pressure. I mean it, I said. Her eyes searched mine, sharp and disbelieving and wet. You barely know what you're talking about. I know I want you. She flinched, not away exactly. more like the words had touched a bruise. I softened my voice. Not because I saw this, not in spite of it either. I wanted you yesterday when you stole the last dumpling and pretended it was for feminism. Her mouth twitched. I wanted you last week when you fell asleep on the couch during that terrible vampire documentary and drooled on my throw pillow. I did not drool. You marked a territory. A small, unwilling laugh escaped her. Then her face crumpled again, and she looked down at the loose fabric gathered in her fist. I don't know how to be looked at, she admitted. Not like this. That was the first time I understood the difference between privacy and loneliness. I took a slow breath. Can I help you with the dress? She hesitated. Only the zipper, I added, and only if you want. Nora nodded once. I stepped behind her again. This time she watched me in the mirror. Her shoulders were tense, but she didn't hide. I gently eased the zipper back up, careful where the fabric caught near her side. My fingers brushed her skin once and she closed her eyes. Still okay? I asked. Yes. A beat. Scared? But yes. The zipper slid into place. I didn't move away immediately, neither did she. In the mirror, we looked like something almost intimate. Her in that impossible blue dress, me damp from the rain, standing close enough that if she leaned back, she'd touch my chest. Then she did. Only an inch. Maybe less. Her back met me softly, cautiously, as if she expected me to vanish. I didn't. I let my hand hover near her waist, not touching. Nora, I'm going to the gala, she said, like a confession. I have to. My design is on the banners, and my boss will make that disappointed librarian face if I bail. Terrifying. She can silence a room by adjusting her glasses. I smiled at her reflection. Then you should go. Her gaze dropped. Alone? The word changed everything. There are invitations people say out loud and invitations hidden under them. I could have pretended not to hear it. Safer that way, roommate boundaries, rent agreements. The comfortable lie that wanting could be folded up and stored neatly in the hall closet. Instead, I said, Do you want me to come with you? She turned in my arms. Not in my arms, not really. Because I still wasn't touching her, but close enough to make my pulse stupid. As my roommate? She asked. No. Her lips parted. As what then? I should have had a smooth answer. I photographed grooms crying before vows. I've heard every polished line love can rent for an afternoon. But Nora was standing 2 feet from me, looking like Hope heard, and all I had was honesty. As the man who wants to take you out. To a museum gala, apparently, which is an intimidating first date. First date? She repeated. If you say yes, her eyes moved over my face. You understand I come with logistics. I own one plate. I'm not in a position to judge anyone's domestic complexity. That plate again, she murmured. I'll introduce you formally later. She laughed, and this time it stayed. Then she did something that felt braver than the zipper, braver than the scar. She reached out and straightened my collar with trembling fingers. You're wet, she said. Rain does that. You can't come to a gala looking like a handsome shipwreck. I froze on handsome. She noticed. Of course she did. A little color came back into her cheeks. Don't make me repeat it. I'm fragile and proud. You think I'm handsome? I think you're annoying. Handsomely? Moderately. I grinned. She rolled her eyes, but her fingers lingered at my collarbone. The touch was light, almost accidental, except neither of us believed in accidents anymore. I changed into my only suit while Nora waited in the living room. When I came out, she was standing by the window, phone in hand, thumb hovering over the rideshare app. She looked at me once and forgot to tap the screen. That look, quick, startled, warm, did more to me than any compliment could have. Acceptable? I asked. Barely, she said. If the lighting is forgiving. I know a guy. The gala was all polished floors, champagne flutes, and people saying installation with reverence. Nora moved through it like she belonged and didn't believe it. I watched her name appear beneath a wall of event graphics she'd designed. Nora Bell. Visual identity. You did this? I asked. Don't sound so surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm impressed. She stared at the wall instead of me. Careful, I'm bad with sincere praise. Then I'll whisper it. Her eyes flicked to mine, so I leaned closer, just enough that my mouth was near her ear. You're brilliant. Nora went still. Around us, people laughed and clinked glasses, but her hand found mine in the crowded room, hesitant at first, then firmer. She didn't look at me when she did it. That made it feel even more real. We walked through the exhibit hand in hand. At one abstract sculpture made of twisted copper, she tilted her head and said, "This looks like a plumbing emergency with confidence." I choked on my champagne. A man nearby glared. Nora smiled serenely. Art is subjective. Halfway through the evening, she tugged me into a quieter gallery where black and white photographs lined the walls. She stopped in front of a portrait of an elderly couple sitting on a porch, their hands clasped between them. This one, she said. I like this one. Why? They look like they've annoyed each other for 50 years and still choose the same bench. I looked at the photograph, then at her. That's the dream? Maybe. She hugged her arms around herself. Not perfect, just chosen. Again and again. I wanted to kiss her then. The wanting must have shown because her breathing changed. She glanced at my mouth, then away. Miles, she whispered, I won't unless you ask. Her eyes came back to mine, darker now. What if I'm tired of asking myself not to want things? My heart kicked hard. Then ask for this. For a second, fear crossed her face. Then something stronger followed. Kiss me, she said. I did. Softly at first, giving her every chance to step back. She didn't. She leaned in, one hand gripping my lapel, and kissed me like she was testing whether joy would hold her weight. It did. When we broke apart, her forehead rested against my chin. Still want me? She asked, but there was a fragile tease under it now. I brushed my thumb over her knuckles. More. Her smile was small and stunned. Then, from the doorway of the gallery, a man's voice said, Nora? She went rigid beside me. I turned. A tall man in an expensive gray suit stood under the archway, staring at her like he'd seen a ghost he used to own. Nora's hand tightened around mine. Julian, she said, I didn't know you'd be here. Julian Vale looked exactly like the kind of man who knew which fork to use and which apology to avoid. His gaze moved from Nora's face to our joined hands. Oh, he said, I didn't realize you were seeing someone. Nora's fingers trembled once against mine. Then she lifted her chin. I am. 2 words, quiet, clear. I didn't say anything because they weren't mine to prove, but I held her hand the way she held mine, not as a shield, as an answer. Julian's smile thinned. Good for you. It sounded like he'd said, how brave. Nora heard it too. Her shoulders tightened. I felt the old impulse rise in me, the protective one, the one that wanted to step forward and make a clean, cutting remark. But Nora had told me once that people often mistook her silence for weakness when really she was deciding whether they deserved oxygen. So I waited. How's Bree? She asked. Julian blinked. I coughed into my fist. Nora's mouth twitched. We're not together anymore, he said. What a shock to the institution of yoga. This time I didn't manage to hide my laugh. Julian looked at me properly for the first time. And you are? Miles, I said. Her date, Nora added. My chest went warm, ridiculous and bright. Julian's eyes flicked back to her. Nora, could we talk privately for a moment? No, she said. The word landed cleanly between us. His face changed, not anger. Something worse. Injured entitlement. I just wanted to say I've thought about how things ended. In public? Nora asked. 3 years later, near a copper? Plumbing emergency? My laugh escaped again. She squeezed my hand, maybe a warning, maybe gratitude. Julian exhaled. I handled it badly. You left, she said. Yes, you left while I was still learning how to stand up straight after surgery. His expression tightened. I was overwhelmed. Nora nodded slowly. So was I. The room seemed to shrink around those words. For once, Julian had nothing smooth to say. Nora looked at him for another second, then turned to me. I'd like to go home. Okay, I said. No drama, no grand exit. Just okay. We got our coats and stepped into the rainy night. The air smelled like wet pavement and lilacs from the planters along the museum steps. Nora didn't cry. She didn't speak either. The rideshare was 12 minutes away. I expected her to pull her hand from mine now that the performance, if any part of it had been one, was over. Instead, she threaded our fingers together more carefully. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For bringing my romantic cemetery on our first date. I looked at her. Nora, I once took a woman to a taco place that gave us both food poisoning. This is still my best first date. Her laugh came out shaky. That's horrifying. The salsa was suspiciously warm. Why did you eat it? I believed in us. She laughed for real then and leaned her shoulder against my arm. There it was again. The choice. Small, physical, deliberate. I turned slightly, sheltering her from the wind without crowding her. You were incredible in there. I was petty. You were articulate with decorative knives. She looked up at me, rain dotting her curls and, did I make you uncomfortable? No. Not even when he showed up? I wanted to say about 40 things. Why didn't you? Because you were saying better ones. Her eyes softened in a way that made the whole city blur. Miles, she said, when I called you my date, yes, I liked how it sounded. I swallowed. So did I. The car arrived then, badly timed by every god of romance. We climbed into the back seat, damp and quiet, still holding hands between us like teenagers afraid the teacher would notice. Halfway home, Nora rested her head on my shoulder. I didn't move for 3 blocks. Then she whispered, you can breathe. I'm trying not to ruin the moment. You're making yourself into a statue. A handsome statue? Moderately. I smiled into the dark window as, at home, the bakery downstairs had gone quiet, leaving the apartment smelling faintly of sugar and yeast. Nora kicked off her heels by the door with a groan. Beautiful shoes are a patriarchal trap, she said. I thought you chose them. I can participate in my own oppression and still complain. Noted. She looked at me then, and the teasing faded into something tender and uncertain. The apartment was different now. Same fox print, same herbs, same lone heroic plate. But the air between us had changed. We had crossed a line neither of us could uncross, and for the first time in years, I didn't want to. Nora touched the zipper at the back of her dress. I need to change, she said. I nodded. Of course. She didn't move. Then, quietly, will you help me again? My answer was soft. Yes. In her room, she stood facing the mirror just as before. But this time, when I stepped behind her, she met my eyes in the glass without flinching. I lowered the zipper slowly, only to the middle of her back where she could reach it herself, but she put her hand over mine. Wait, I stopped. Her fingers were warm, her pulse beat fast against my knuckles. I don't want tonight to end with him, she said, in my head, in my skin. It doesn't have to. She turned around. The dress loosened at one shoulder and she caught it, but not with panic this time. With choice. I want you to look at me, she said. The words cost her. I saw it. So I did not make them cheap. I looked at her face first, her eyes, her mouth, the fierce little crease between her brows. Then, only when she nodded, I let my gaze move to the scar, the pouch, the body she had survived in. You're beautiful, I said. Her breath hitched. And I don't mean brave beautiful. I mean, I'm trying very hard not to kiss every inch of you because we've had one date and I'm a gentleman under legal review. A startled laugh broke through her tears. There he is, she whispered. The man with one plate and dangerous restraint. My restraint has excellent references. Does it? No, it lied on its resume. She stepped closer. This time she touched me first, palms against my chest, light but sure. Then she rose onto her toes and kissed me. It wasn't the tentative kiss from the gallery, this one had heat in it, and relief, and anger at all the years she'd spent treating wanting like a locked room. I wrapped my arms around her carefully, giving her space to choose the pressure. She chose more. Her body leaned into mine, soft and real, and when she sighed against my mouth, I felt it everywhere. We stopped before stopping became impossible, foreheads together, breath uneven. I'm scared, she said. Me too. You, of what? Wanting this much. Her eyes searched mine. This? You, us, whatever we're brave enough to call it. Nora smiled, small and luminous. Us, she said, testing the word. I kissed her forehead. Us! Later, after she changed into an oversized sweater and leggings, we sat on the kitchen floor eating toast because neither of us had the emotional capacity to cook. She put her feet in my lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. This is a strange second location for a first date, she said. I offer premium floor dining. Do you bring all your dates here? Only the ones who insult sculpture and dismantle their exes with museum-grade precision. She buttered the last piece of toast and handed me half. I stared at it. You shared the last piece. Don't make it weird. Nora Bell, this is basically a dowry. She nudged my knee with her foot, smiling. My phone buzzed on the counter, forgotten, then hers buzzed too. Nora glanced up. Another buzz. Her smile faded just a little as she reached for it. I watched her unlock the screen. Julian's name glowed in the dim kitchen light. I should have felt the room tighten. But Nora looked at me first, not the message. Then she turned the phone face down and slid it away. Tomorrow, she said. I covered her hand with mine. Tomorrow. And because we had promised tonight would not end with him, I leaned in and kissed her again, slow and certain, until her fingers curled into my shirt and the only name in the room was mine. The next morning, Nora made coffee like a woman preparing for battle. She wore my gray sweatshirt. I noticed this before I noticed anything else because I was a man with a pulse and the sweatshirt had never looked remotely interesting on me. You stole my clothes, I said. She didn't turn from the counter. Borrowed. It has my university logo. I'm expanding its opportunities. It's hanging off one shoulder. Then it's fashionable. I leaned in the kitchen doorway watching her pour 2 mugs. Are we going to talk about the fact that you're wearing my sweatshirt? She glanced back. Her hair was sleep messy, her eyes soft, and the shy curve of her mouth nearly ruined me. Are we going to talk about the fact that you like it? No, I said. I'm taking that secret to my grave. Coward. Absolutely. She handed me coffee and our fingers brushed. After everything from the night before, it should have been nothing. It was not nothing. Nora looked down into her mug. Julian sent 4 messages. I let the warmth in my chest settle into something steadier. Do you want to read them? No. A beat. Yes, maybe. I hate that my body still reacts like he gets to summon me. He doesn't. I know that in my brain. She tapped her temple. Unfortunately, the rest of me is running outdated software. I set my mug down. Can I sit with you while you read them? She looked up. Not, do you want me to handle it? Not, should I tell him off? Just sit. Her expression loosened. Yes. We sat side by side on the couch, close enough for our knees to touch. She opened the messages. Nora, I didn't mean to upset you. I've wanted to apologize for a long time. Seeing you with him made me realize I never got closure. Can we talk today? Just us. Nora stared at the screen, face unreadable. Then she handed me the phone. If I answer, I'll either apologize to him for making him feel bad or call him a haunted lampshade. Both tempting. I know. What do you want? She leaned back, closing her eyes. I want to stop explaining my pain to the person who caused it. There it was, clean and true. So don't, I said. Her eyes opened. That simple? Not easy. Simple. She took the phone back and typed slowly. Julian, I heard your apology last night. I don't want a private conversation. Please don't contact me again. She hovered over send. I didn't touch her. I didn't cheer. I just stayed. She pressed send. Then she dropped the phone onto the cushion and exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for 3 years. I reached for her hand. How do you feel? Like throwing up. Romantic. She laughed weakly and turned into me, tucking her face against my shoulder. Also proud. I kissed the top of her head. Good. For a while we stayed like that, coffee cooling on the table, rain tapping softly at the windows again. Her fingers traced absent shapes over the back of my hand. I need to ask you something, she said. Okay. If this gets complicated, are you going to decide it was too much? The question was quiet, but it cut straight through me. I shifted so I could see her face. Nora, I can't promise I'll never be clumsy. I probably will be. I can't promise I'll always understand without you telling me. But I can promise I won't punish you for having a body, a history, or hard days. Her eyes shone. And, I added, I won't call wanting you complicated like it's a problem. She swallowed. You make it sound easy to stay. It isn't easy. I brushed my thumb along her wrist. It's just what I want. Nora looked at my mouth. I had learned this look now. It still made me stupid. She climbed into my lap slowly, giving me every chance to stop her. As if I would ever. My hands settled at her waist over the sweatshirt, careful and reverent. Her knees bracketed my hips. She was warm and soft and trembling. Is this okay? She whispered. I nearly laughed, but only because my body had several urgent opinions. Very okay. She smiled, then kissed me. Morning kisses were different. Less dramatic than museum galleries and unzipped dresses. More dangerous, maybe, because they suggested ordinary life could hold this too. Coffee breath. Rain. My sweatshirt sliding down her shoulder, her hands in my hair. She pulled back just enough to say, I want to keep doing this. Kissing? Yes, also possibly stealing more clothes. I'll alert security. I mean us, she said. My hand stilled, her cheeks colored, but she didn't look away. I don't want to pretend last night was just a charged emotional incident with formal wear. That's disappointing. I already named my memoir that. Miles. I smiled, then sobered. I want us too. She let out a breath and kissed me again, softer this time, like a promise instead of a question. By noon, we had made rules. Not cold rules, warm ones, honest ones. No hiding behind roommates if we were scared. No using the apartment as neutral territory to avoid talking. If either of us needed space, we would say space, not fine. If we went on a second date, it had to involve food not served on toothpicks by museum staff. And no pretending you don't own only one plate, Nora added. That plate is becoming a hostile work environment. It needs friends. You need friends. I have friends. She paused. They're mugs. That afternoon, we went to a thrift store and bought 4 plates, none of which matched. Nora insisted mismatched dishes built character. I insisted she was using interior design to avoid admitting she liked the one with tiny painted strawberries. I contain multitudes, she said, holding it to her chest. You contain dishware now. Outside, the clouds broke. Sunlight hit the wet sidewalk and Nora slipped her hand into mine in public without hesitation. I looked down at our joined hands. She bumped my shoulder. Don't make it weird. I'm not. You're doing the face. What face? I photograph engagement sessions but have never emotionally survived hand-holding phase. That's very specific. I'm a designer. I notice details. I raised her hand and kissed her knuckles. She went quiet. When I looked at her, her smile was small, stunned, and entirely worth whatever vulnerability it cost. Me. We had lunch at a tiny place with red vinyl booths. Nora stole my fries and offered me one pickle slice in exchange. This relationship is economically unstable, I said. This relationship? She caught it, of course. I felt heat climb my neck. If you want to call it that. She leaned across the booth. I do. 2 words again. This time they belong to us. I kissed her over the table, quick and smiling. The waitress walked by and said, "Cute," without slowing down. Nora turned crimson. "I'm never recovering," she said. "From public approval? From being perceived while happy?" I reached across the table, palm up. She took my hand. "Get used to it," I said. Her expression softened. "Bossy." "Moderately." Her laugh was still in the air when her phone rang. Julian, not a message this time. A call. Nora looked at the screen and I felt her hand tighten around mine. For a second, the light went out of her face. Then she silenced it. A voicemail appeared almost immediately. She didn't touch it. "I said no," she whispered. "You did." Her jaw set. "I'm not letting him have the rest of today." So we didn't. We walked home slowly with our ridiculous plates wrapped in newspaper. We stopped at the bakery downstairs and bought 2 cupcakes because Nora said new relationships required ceremonial sugar. In the apartment, she put the strawberry plate in the cabinet, then turned to me with frosting on her thumb. "You have something," I said. "Where?" I caught her hand and kissed the frosting from her thumb. Her eyes darkened. "Oh," she said. "Too much?" "No." Her voice went soft. "Do that again." So I did. Then I kissed her mouth, and she tasted like vanilla and sunlight. She pressed close, arms around my neck, and for several long minutes there was no Julian, no old fear, no scar as a source of shame. Just Nora making a small pleased sound against my lips and me choosing her with both hands. Later, curled beside me on the couch, she finally listened to the voicemail on speaker. Julian's voice filled the room. "Nora, I know you said not to contact you, but I think you owe me one conversation. I'm coming by tonight. I still remember the building." Her body went cold against mine. I wrapped an arm around her, but she was the one who reached for my hand and held on. Then she looked up at me, eyes frightened but clear. "I don't want to hide," she said. I kissed her temple. "Then we won't." Julian arrived at 7:18. I know because Nora checked the clock, then looked at me and said, "That is such an arrogant arrival time." "Is there a humble one?" 7:14, maybe 7:22. But 7:18 says he had parking luck and still thinks it's destiny. She was scared. I could see it in the way she kept smoothing the hem of my sweatshirt over her thighs, the way her breath caught whenever footsteps sounded in the hall. But she was also funny. That was Nora all over, terrified and armed. When the knock came, she didn't jump. She reached for my hand. "I want to answer," she said. "Okay. I want you with me. I'm here." She looked at me, not in front of me. I understood. "Beside you," I said. She nodded. We walked to the door together. Julian stood in the hallway holding a bouquet of white roses as if he had learned remorse from a hotel lobby. His eyes moved over Nora, then me, then our joined hands. "Nora," he said softly. She looked at the flowers. "No." His brow creased. "No?" "No to the flowers. No to the conversation you decided I owed you. No to coming to my home after I asked you not to contact me." Julian's jaw tightened. "I was only trying to apologize." "You did apologize," she said. "I heard it. I don't accept the part where your apology requires access to me." I felt a rush of pride so fierce I had to keep my mouth shut. Julian looked at me. Can she speak for herself? Nora laughed once, sharp as broken glass. I am literally doing that. His face flushed. I loved you, he said to her. I made one mistake. Nora went still. Then she let go of my hand. For half a second, I hated it. Then I understood why. She didn't need me as proof. She stepped forward, not enough to invite him in, just enough to take up her own space. You didn't make one mistake, she said. You made a choice every day after my surgery. You chose silence. You chose distance. You chose someone else. And then you let me believe my body had made me unlovable because that was easier than admitting you were cruel. Julian's mouth opened. She didn't let him speak. I am not unlovable, she said. My chest tightened. Nora glanced back at me then, just once. I looked at her the way I had in her bedroom, the way I had in the museum, the way I planned to look at her for as long as she let me. No, I said quietly. You're not. Her eyes shone, but her voice stayed steady. I'm asking you one more time to leave, she told Julian. If you contact me again, I'll document it and involve people you cannot charm. He stared at her, and for a moment, I saw him understand that the woman in front of him was no longer waiting to be chosen by him. Then he lowered the roses. This is really what you want? He asked. Nora reached back. I took her hand. Yes, she said. Julian left with his lobby flowers. When the stairwell door closed behind him, Nora shut our apartment door and locked it. Then she turned, pressed her back to it, and burst into tears. I went to her but stopped a step away. Can I hold you? She nodded hard. The second my arms went around her, she folded into me. Not collapsing, not breaking, letting go. I said it, she whispered into my shirt. I said I'm not unlovable. You did. I didn't believe it all the way. That's okay. She lifted her face. Do you? I cupped her cheek. Yes. The word was simple, it felt like a vow. She kissed me then, salty and shaking and alive. Her hands clutched my back. Mine settled at her waist and she didn't flinch. She leaned in closer. When she pulled away, her laugh was wet. I'm sorry, this is a lot for week 2 of cohabitation. I think we skipped a few standard roommate milestones. Like passive-aggressive notes about dishes. We bought plates together. We're basically pioneers. She smiled and the fear in the room loosened. That night, Nora asked me to stay in her room until she fell asleep. We lay on top of the blankets, fully dressed, facing each other in the low amber light. She took my hand and placed it carefully over her side, over the sweatshirt, over the place she'd once believed made her impossible to want. Is this okay? She asked. I moved my thumb slowly. Yes. For me too, she whispered, as if surprised. We didn't do anything more than kiss. We didn't need to. There was a tenderness and restraint in learning the map without rushing the journey. Just before sleep took her, Nora murmured, Miles? Yeah? You can have drawer space. I smiled in the dark. In my own apartment? Don't be difficult. I'm making a romantic gesture. Then I accept. Her mouth curved against my shoulder. Good. By the following spring, the apartment no longer looked like a man was losing a long argument with loneliness. There were 6 plates in the cabinet. None matched. The strawberry one was Nora's favorite, though she maintained it belonged to the household aesthetic. The herbs in the window had become aggressive. The fox print by the door had been joined by one of my photographs. Nora on the fire escape at sunrise, wrapped in a blanket, laughing at something I had said. I had taken hundreds of pictures of brides, grooms, rings, first dances, perfect centerpieces. That photo was the first one that ever felt like home. Nora still had hard days. Some mornings she hated the pouch. Some nights, a smell, a zipper, a careless phrase online could send her quiet. But she stopped apologizing for being quiet. I stopped trying to solve every silence. We learned each other. She learned that I got scared when things were good because good things felt fragile. I learned that she liked being kissed at the kitchen counter but hated being surprised from behind. She liked my hands on her waist if she put them there first. She liked dancing barefoot while pasta boiled. She liked when I called her beautiful casually, not like an announcement, but like weather. You're beautiful, I'd say while she watered basil. You're biased, she'd reply, deeply, professionally unreliable, madly. The first time she went swimming with me, we rented a small cabin near a lake 2 hours west. She stood on the dock in a high-waisted black swimsuit, arms wrapped around herself, staring at the water like it had asked her a personal question. We can leave, I said. She shook her head. I don't want to leave. Okay. I also don't want you to stare. Okay. And I do want you to think I'm hot. That one I can do silently or with a brief presentation. She laughed, nervous and bright. Brief. I looked at her, really looked, and felt the same pull I'd felt the night of the blue dress, only deeper now. Not shock, not pity, not curiosity. Love. You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, I said. Her eyes filled. That was not brief. I edited for time. She walked to me then, took my face in both hands and kissed me under the wide blue sky. Then she jumped into the lake with a shriek so dramatic a bird fled a nearby pine tree. I followed, laughing. When she surfaced, curls slicked back, scar and pouch visible, sunlight breaking around her shoulders, she looked breathless and furious with joy. Don't you dare cry, she warned me. I'm not. You are. It's lake water. You're a terrible liar, Turner. She swam to me, wrapped her arms around my neck, and let me hold her there in the cold, bright water. A year after the night she unzipped that dress, Nora wore navy again. Not to hide, to celebrate. We hosted dinner for our friends in the apartment over the bakery using every mismatched plate we owned. Nora made pasta. I burned the bread. She called it textural contrast because she loved me. Later, after everyone left, music played softly from her room. The same old soul playlist from that first gala night. Nora stood in the hallway, barefoot on the hardwood, and turned her back to me. Zip me down, she asked. My throat tightened. This time, there was no trembling, no shame breathing in the room. Just my woman smiling over her shoulder, trusting me with the ordinary intimacy of a zipper. I stepped behind her and lowered it slowly. She turned, the navy fabric loose at her shoulders, and kissed me like choosing had become easy. Not because the fear disappeared, because love had become louder. And as the bakery downstairs began its midnight work, filling our home with the scent of sugar and bread, Nora pressed her forehead to mine and whispered, I'm wanted. I held her face in my hands. Yes, I said, you are. What would you have done if your new roommate unzipped her dress, showed you the scar she believed made her unwanted, and trusted you with that pain? Have you ever experienced something similar? Tell your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.